David Xanatos, who is totally not evil, guys. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a pretty interesting
To be
bad guy.
fair, yeah, I wouldn't even say he's a bad guy in a traditional sense. He's just a player on the board, really, with his own agenda.
Yes. I mean, there are other bad guys that come out, in shows that are similar to him. I've mentioned Eon Flux, that was also on the poll. And Eon Flux, you have the character of Trevor Goodchild, who is sort of a bad guy in the same way that this David Xanatos is a bad guy. He's a very Faustian character, I think. He's much more driven by like his need to kind of push the boundaries and to explore, and his will to power. That's sort of his big thing. He's not interested in revenge plots, which is typical for the villain characters. Either that they have some kind of like cartoonish worldview that they're trying to
I mean,
impose, or they
he
have a
lets them
vendetta,
stay
right?
in their castle after they basically get him thrown into jail because he feels that he can control them in the future.
Yes, so he's not really like into, okay, I need to get revenge on these people. He has big ideas about what he wants to do with technology because he basically has infinite money, right? He's kind of like a tech billionaire in this sort of John McAfee, Elon Musk style of tech. Even though like he doesn't actually know anything about tech, he made himself rich with magic, which is something that I don't know if that was in season 1 or season 2, but
I
um,
don't know if they ever explained how he got rich.
there's this if you see the bottom left image here, where it shows that he basically has like this triangle pin that's really the Illuminati pin. And this is an episode where he marries one of these other characters from from the pack, like the redhead that's in this American Gladiator gang that they end up fighting. And like for his marriage, he invites his own father, and he basically like asks Goliath to be his best man in the marriage, basically. So this is sort of how he thinks he'll just like drag people into his schemes, whether they like to or not, because they have to, right? It's not really because he has personal animosity towards them. He just wants to
Mm.
do his kind of like will to power projects,
Glow
and other
in
people just have to.
oh, sorry,
Yes.
glow in the dark again with $10. Try like getting out ahead of me. And something I wanted to point out in that Xanatos the nerd only wanted to be like the Chad Goliath, but couldn't and got butthurt. I find it funny that he's constantly competing with magic, mostly losing and barely surviving most of the time. In a sense, I feel like uh, he's trying to sort of buy his way, or take the shortcut to the Chad status. Um, but I don't know if you have any
Yeah. No.
thoughts on that. Like, I wanted to ask you because that's my interpretation of him as well.
That he tries to buy his way into it. I mean, I look at him very much as like, really, he has infinite money because he made his money with magic, and he sort of explains that like it's his entire story is sort of wrapped in this predestination paradox, where he explains to his own father, like, he comes from this poor family. That's a part of his backstory. So he's like a first generation technology billionaire, and his dad is very skeptical about how he made his money. So he basically explains that he can time travel, and he travels back to the 1,000 years ago, basically to the year 997.
I
And
see.
because he has like this sort of Illuminati insignia, he can just tell people who are in the Illuminati in the year 997 to send him stuff in the future that's going to be worth a lot on the stock market, or sort of like, okay, here's like a coin that Henry VIII used or
Yeah, yeah.
something. And that's sort of how he
Because
made
that
it,
must
like
be a season two
his
thing.
money.
Yeah.
And then he's just reinvested that into a technology business. So which in a sense means that he has pretty much infinite money. And that's why he can get up to all of these experiments, and that's where he seems to have absolutely no regard for uh, doing business. In a sense, you never see him actually administrating anything in the show. He does not make any deals. He doesn't oversee operations in his own company. He's just kind of the owner of the company who just wants to do cool stuff with the tech that's produced in that company. So he has like the sort of character that's standing behind him in the photo above, that like the blonde man with the glasses,
Yeah. Yeah.
Owen, who basically is like this kind of superhuman that manages everything that is going on in the company. which of course, spoiler alert, like this character is actually like a magical.
Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Warren Buffett is it's probably the adrenochrome actually. I mean, Buffett is like he's a much more boring character. He actually likes to do spreadsheets and stuff. Most of his investments
That's
are like
true.
these insanely kind of boring things.
That's
He's
also
a
how
guy
he
who,
made his money. His idea is to basically, play the long game, and by that win. It's
slow
his
and
basic
steady.
strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't become a billionaire until he was like really, really old, right? So he's been sticking to buying these. I don't remember exactly like the financial term of what that is, but you buy these stock that are like, well, this company is kind of undervalued. Oh, they make bricks, so that's pretty boring. But it's the stock is a little bit too cheap for a brick company. So eventually, if I just buy up all of these, then I'm going to get rich. And of course, you could do that, and it'll work. It'll work pretty nicely in the long run, I think. But
His
it's not
mantra is
exciting,
that,
right?
the only thing that wins in the stock market is time. So
Yes. Time in the market beats timing in the market. I think that's
exactly, yeah.
a slogan in finance.
And this guy is voiced by Jonathan Frakes, who played William T. Riker in Star Trek: The Next Generation, the chair disrespecter himself.
I
For
haven't
those of you
watched
who
that
watched
much
that show,
Star
okay,
Trek. Is
he
that
made a
he doesn't
thing
like
like
to
his
sit?
No, it's not that. He has a thing where he like steps over every chair to sit on it. It's a weird like character thing he does. No other character does that because Star Trek has these weird, strange, sort of like I don't the seats they have in Star Trek are all like very low, right? So he's very tall, and so he steps over every chair before he sits in it instead of going around it. It's just a very strange character quirk that he developed.
I want to watch that show now. Actually, do you recommend it, or is it something that you had to?
Well, it's very much coached in like super liberalism, right? But it's not a bad quality show. I'll put it like that. He uses magic, but he doesn't trust it because he can't control it like technology. He literally fights gods with machines. He also has a Goliath mech suit, right? And that's my interpretation of it as well. I mean, that the only reason he makes the like mecha Goliaths is he ultimately says it's something that obeys me 100%. Because in the end, this guy is just a man, right?
Yes, he is just a man, and this is something that we're getting into later in terms of like who's actually pulling the strings in this world, right? But I mean, I said this is going to be like a spoiler review. So you see the picture there. He has the character behind him that administers everything. This character is named Owen, but it's revealed like very late in season 2 that the character Owen is actually an elf, right? Or it's called a fairy in like the Shakespeare play. He is the elf that's called Puck from A Midnight Summer's Dream. That's the Shakespeare play that has certain characters that are like these magical fairy characters. So he's actually like the reason that he can apparently do all of this business administration at the same time is because like he is just like a purely magical character who's signed a contract to just be in servitude to Xanatos until he dies. And the reason that he looks like that is because he's just he's just taken his entire appearance from the if you follow the red line, this character down here that's called Preston Vogel, that was like an actual COO kind of operator guy who was working for this old man who's called Halcyon up there, right? Like that's an actual self-made. The old man is an actual self-made tech billionaire who had like an administrator guy, and he just sort of copied that look to work for Xanatos and just made him blonde. Right. There's of course the plot here where there's this sort of rivalry between Xanatos and the Halcyon Corporation in terms of like they accuse each other of like tech theft and
stealing stuff,
stealing artificial intelligence.
What's the connection with the pack woman in the top?
Yeah, the pack woman is that he, Halcyon basically married a woman that he had a child with, and the child is Fox, who is basically becomes Xanatos' wife.
Okay.
And it's of course revealed that like the woman that Halcyon marries is actually an other characters from A Midsummer Night's Dream. That's like the Queen Titania that's made herself into a human being, which means that then this Fox character is also like basically magical... like a changeling, right? This sort of like elf that's actually posing as a human being. she then marries Xanatos, and they have a kid together. That's like Alexander Xanatos. And because Alexander Xanatos has like elf genes, that means that he's also a changeling. And so this is like one of these big, actually surprising. It surprised me, these plots that come in at the end, where King Oberon, that's like the king of the elf, the actual like OG most powerful person in this universe, comes to just take the kid. Like he says, well, this is like an elf
Because he's
child.
elf
So,
blood.
yeah, it's an
Yeah.
elf blood. So I'm just taking him back to Avalon, basically.
Nice.
And this is sort of like it's not only weird to have like this kid show, like I said, where you show two white people who have a kid together, and the kid is like actually healthy and they're happy about it, but then somebody else comes and try to steal the kid. It's quite a ballsy thing to put into a children's cartoon. So I mean, of course, that spoiler, that they're able to convince basically King Oberon of some kind of like middle of the road settlement, some compromise where he kind of like strips Owen here, a puck, of some of his magic, and then Owen has to basically watch over this kid while it's in the care of Xanatos and Fox. And of course, the Goliath is the broker of that agreement. So in season 3 of this show, Xanatos takes a face turn. He basically stops all of these scheming, and he just tries to help Goliath and the Gargoyle clan after it's been made kind of public that gargoyles exist. So that's kind of the season 3 sucks basically, and I mean, for a lot of different reasons. That's kind of the shift there, is that they move from a lot of these interesting characters with power play into now everybody knows that gargoyles are real and everybody hates gargoyles. So they form like this kind of like anti-gargoyles, Ku Klux Klan type movements that they try to avoid.
That sounds
with
like
the help
season
of
3 stuff, right?
Yes, that's in season 3. I mean, another thing to note here is that you have the flow chart. That's it's this concept I wasn't aware of. That's called like the Xanatos Gambit. It's this narrative tool where you have these bad guys who will apparently start some type of plan, and no matter what outcome that plan has, it's always a win for them. Like, so they have so many contingency plans that they always come out on top. And they've I think that's the certain thing called TV Tropes Wiki that has a long list of every instance of this kind of Xanatos Gambit. I think they even mentioned that certain animes like Attack on Titan use this kind of narrative to device here. But this is something that Greg Weisman basically came up with, like this style of cartoon villain, which is why I said that there is like some meritocratic aspect to him getting the positions that he has, because he actually has some original ideas.
He's very much a schemer.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you see it with Greg Weisman as the show creator. He uses the same, narrative tricks in Young Justice. Like, the villains are very kind of similar. They always have these kind of plans that on top of plans on top of plans. That, and it always kind of ends up in a way where they gain something from it, even though it seems so like superficially that they don't.